transport ship Meridian Dawn had crashed 3 cycles ago, scattering its crew across the uncharted moon of Keth 7. Tara was the only survivor from her pod, alone in a jungle that breathed with hostile intent. The flora here pulsed with bioluminescence after dark, and the fauna had made it clear that humans were very much on the menu. She'd learned to move like smoke through the canopy, to mask her scent with mud and crushed leaves, to sleep in bursts of 20 minutes while wedged in tree hollows. The rescue beacon was damaged, but she'd managed to jury-rig it with parts salvaged from the wreckage. It would take another week before the signal could punch through the moon's electromagnetic interference. 1 week. She just had to survive 1 more week. That's when she met Varric. The creature stood nearly 3 meters tall, its quadrupedal frame covered in overlapping plates of chitinous armor that gleamed like oil in the filtered sunlight. 6 eyes arranged in a semicircle across its elongated skull tracked her movement with predatory precision. Its maw, filled with rows of crystalline teeth, could easily bite her in half. Tara had frozen when she first saw it, her hand instinctively moving to the plasma cutter at her hip, her only weapon. But Varric hadn't attacked. Instead, it had studied her with an intelligence that made her skin crawl. This wasn't just an animal. This was an apex predator with the cunning of something far more dangerous. Then she heard the chirping. 3 smaller versions of Varric emerged from the undergrowth, each the size of a large dog, cubs. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She'd stumbled into a hunting lesson. The largest cub lunged at her, a test strike that any prey animal would have fled from. Tara didn't run. She couldn't. Running triggered chase instinct in every predator across every world humanity had ever catalogued. Instead, she dropped into a combat stance, plasma cutter humming to life, and let out a roar that came from somewhere primal in her chest. The cub skidded to a halt. Confused, Varric's eyes narrowed, all 6 of them focusing on her with renewed interest. The second cub circled, trying to flank her. Tara spun, keeping all 3 cubs in her line of sight while never turning her back on Varric. She stamped her foot hard, and the sound cracked through the jungle like a gunshot. The cub retreated. "Not prey," she growled, making her voice as low and threatening as possible. "Predator." She didn't know if Varric could understand her words, but it would understand her tone, her posture, her refusal to yield. Every species respected strength. The third cub, bolder than its siblings, made a genuine attempt. It launched itself at her throat with surprising speed. Tara's training kicked in. 6 years in the Colonial Marines hadn't been wasted. She sidestepped, brought the plasma cutter down in a controlled arc, and sliced through the tip of the cub's tail as it passed. The cub yelped and scrambled away, leaving a small piece of its tail smoking on the jungle floor. Not a killing blow. A teaching blow. Varric rose to its full height, and Tara knew this was the moment. The adult would either kill her for harming its offspring or... The predator lowered its massive head, eyes fixed on hers, and made a sound like grinding stone. Then slowly, deliberately, it pressed its skull to the ground in front of her. Submission. Tara's heart hammered, but she didn't move. She'd read enough xenobiology reports to know that this was a critical moment. With measured steps, she approached Varric, maintaining eye contact, projecting confidence she didn't entirely feel. When she was close enough to touch the creature, she placed her hand on its armored head. "Alpha," she whispered. Varric rumbled, a sound that resonated in her bones. Then it rose, turned to its cubs, and made a series of clicking, whistling calls. The cubs approached Tara cautiously, and one by one, they too lowered their heads. From that moment, everything changed. Varric became her shadow, her protector, her partner. The predator taught her which plants were edible, which water sources were safe, how to read the jungle's rhythms. In return, Tara showed Varric things the creature had never encountered. Fire, tools, strategy that went beyond instinct. The cubs grew bolder around her, playful even. They learned that this strange, soft-skinned creature was pack now. She was Alpha. On the 5th night, a pack of rival predators, sleeker, more numerous, attacked. They must have seen Tara as an easy meal, a weakness in Varric's territory. They were wrong. Varric fought with the fury of a parent protecting its young, but there were too many. Tara didn't hesitate. She waded into the fight with her plasma cutter, moving between the cubs, covering Varric's flanks, fighting with a ferocity that surprised even herself. These creatures had accepted her. They were hers to protect. When the last rival predator fled, wounded and broken, Varric stood among the carnage and looked at Tara. The predator's eyes held something she'd never expected to see. Respect. Not the respect of prey for predator, but the respect of warrior for warrior. Varric approached and pressed its bloodied snout against Tara's shoulder, a gesture she'd come to recognize as affection. The cubs crowded around her legs, chirping softly. 2 days later, when the rescue ship finally broke through the atmosphere, Tara stood at the beacon site with Varric beside her. The predator had followed her through the jungle, refusing to leave even when the ship's engines screamed overhead. As the rescue team descended, weapons drawn at the sight of the massive predator, Tara held up her hand. "Stand down," she commanded. "Varric is with me." The team leader started to protest, but something in Tara's eyes, something wild and uncompromising, made him reconsider. This wasn't the same woman who'd crashed 3 weeks ago. As they lifted off, Tara watched the jungle canopy fall away. Varric had returned to its cubs, but before disappearing into the trees, the predator had made that grinding sound one last time and lowered its head. Even across species, some things were universal. Respect. Loyalty. The recognition that strength came in many forms, and the acknowledgement that sometimes the human wasn't the prey. Sometimes the human was alpha,